The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
It's your last chance to get gifts before the holiday, and right now at Old Navy, everything's up to 75% off with gifts from just $1, $2, $3, and $4. Buy online, pick up in store for free in 2 hours with extended store hours too. Get up to 75% off everything at Old Navy and OldNavy.com now. Valid 12/18 to 12/24, excludes gift cards, today only, 2-day only deals, register lane items, jewelry, and Zip Zap stuff gifting bins. Orders must be placed before 4 p.m. for same-day pickup, subject to availability and delays. Additional terms apply.
Our podcast network is so big, we're doing this show from 3 different time zones. Michael Russo is sitting on the Wild bench in the Staples Center as the Wild gets ready for one of the last games of the season. I'm at the Masters in Augusta, Georgia, sitting in the palatial. And, you know, when I say palatial, I mean royalty should be living here, and we should not be working here. I'm not worthy of this place. Augusta National Golf Club. And Brandon's back home in Minnesota trying to wrangle this cat show right now. We're going to get to a lot of good Twitter questions today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Masters, a little about Michael's latest road trip, and I'm sure what is a palatial presidential suite he's staying in. Do want to thank Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, Twill on Instagram, Fixology Repair, 3rd floor of the Mall of America, and downtown Minneapolis in the Skyway, and Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. This is one of the more popular shows on the network. If you'd like to advertise with us and reach this large and growing audience, you can reach me at jsouhan@startribune.com. And you can find all the shows by subscribing at iTunes, your favorite podcast app, or going to mnspn.com. We'll also have a new website out this week. Please check back for that. All right, Michael, let's start with your Ryan Suter story. I'll just let you explain what Ryan had to say.
Basically, and he just literally this moment got out of surgery, and they're meeting with the doctors after he kind of gets with it, and they'll have a better idea of how it went and what he saw in there and how it goes from there. But essentially, not only did he break his fibula in Dallas on Saturday, he broke his talus bone, which is a bone that is integral for essentially range of motion for your ankle. And what he told me, and what I've been working on for 3 days, I mean, I've known this was going on, and I've been, essentially, there are certain things as a journalist, you don't go with anonymous sources on, and you feel like you got to get from the principal. And so I've been kind of working on getting Ryan to talk to me on the record for the last couple of days. And finally, we chatted yesterday after he got to Green Bay. And what I had heard is that this was a career-threatening injury. And he admitted to me that doctors did tell him that if he was a normal athlete that basically essentially had to run and things like that he would probably never play again, because it affects your range of motion even after surgery. A lot of times when you have this type of surgery, it's after a high velocity fall or a major trauma like a car accident. And when they do this type of surgery, they don't really worry about making sure that a professional athlete is going to be able to function again. They just are trying to get you to walk, hopefully for the rest of your life without pain and with some motion. And so this is the type of thing that they're hoping that as a skater, that because your foot's in a boot and you don't really need to rely on quick movements, and you get to glide and things like that that he'll be able to play again and play as well as he did before, and frankly, he could be skating before he's really walking well. So we'll see how he recovers from this. It's a scary thing, I think, for him. He's got to be really careful with it, Jim. For 4 months, he can have no weight bearing, and the way I understand it is they were going to fix this. It's in a real tight place, this bone. They were going to fix it with screws, and it's the type of thing that if you mess it up and are not patient and get some weight on it, that thing can break apart on you. And so he's got to be really diligent and until August, probably not put any weight on it, which again it's gonna be interesting to see how he comes back from it, because professional athletes start working out really 3-4 weeks after the season and start skating pretty early in the summer, and he's not going to be able to do that, which just again he's going to have to be playing catch up. And he even admits that he's never the biggest workout guy during the off season. His workouts are real quick 40-minute, 50-minute things, and then it's working the farm all day. And so we'll see how he recovers from this.
Injuries are always difficult to talk about. They're difficult to project. Do you just, not going to hold you to it or anything, but Michael, do you fear that Suter's career could either be, over or severely damaged?
Well, I do fear that. Not so much it's over, although when I talked to him yesterday, he did admit that is a risk of his, and he's just trying not to think that way. But it definitely career altering. I mean, this is a great defenseman, and they're number one defenseman. And if all of a sudden you have no ankle, or your ankle movement is messed up, you do worry about foot speed and turns, and playing this type of sport mentally, going into behind the net and corners and battling. So yeah, I am. It's amazing to me that, it's again, it's like this market is just cursed. I mean, here's a guy that's never hurt. I mean, literally never hurt. Didn't have one injury as a Minnesota Wild. Has never had surgery in his life. And then in the fifth to last game before the playoffs, he goes and gets hit really innocuously and breaks a bone that no professional athlete ever breaks. I mean, it's just, it's like you can't even make up sometimes how cursed all these teams are. And here's a guy with 7 years left on his contract. So, and it really is. It's one of those things that I feel bad for him. Again, Bruce was talking today at the morning skate here in LA, that just how he can't get it out of his head, just feeling so bad for Ryan Suter. And so it's going to take a lot of patience. He is confident that he's going to be able to battle through this. But it absolutely is a concern when I've talked to a lot of orthopedic surgeons the last 3 days. I mean, again, this didn't just come together yesterday. I've been working on this for 3 days and talking to people about this bone and talking to different people I know, surgeons, orthopedists, and they all were shocked when I told them what bone that he broke. And
wow.
It's just one of those tough injuries.
And I'm getting way ahead of myself here, but given the length and the value of his contract, if he couldn't play anymore, would the Wild get any relief?
Well, I mean, the way that I understand it, it would be is that, if you have a career-ending injury that forces your retirement, that there would be relief. Again, the cap recapture rule is to avoid situations where all these guys have backsliding contracts that maybe arguably never had the intention of finishing the contract, like kind of Marian Hossa this year in Chicago. And they got relief. So I would hope that the league would allow teams with actual legit injuries get out of it. But, that's all up in the air. I'm not even doing that type of questioning yet. These money-wise, these contracts, when your top 4 or 5 highest paid players, their contracts are insured. So, the Wild aren't worried about that. It's more of a cap situation, as you alluded to.
Right. What kind of mood was Ryan in when he talked to him?
He was as good as can be expected. I mean, I will say he was joking around and things like that on the phone. It's just some things that he sometimes always says to a couple of us writers. But I think he's concerned. I mean, this is somebody that's never had a surgery before. He knows what type of summer this is going to be for him. It's going to be an absolute pain in the butt for him. I mean, this is somebody that does get up every day, works his hundreds of acres of lands, goes to his hockey rink that is named Bob after his father, and they planned a huge renovation this summer that now he's not going to kind of be able to be a part of. So and then to have this right before the playoffs is just really, really difficult for him. But I will say, talking to him on the phone, he was as strong as can be, and as I said, he cracked a couple jokes that are kind of inside jokes with some of us that are around the team a lot.
Let me ask you about Zach Parise and Mike Yeo after we thank Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, Twill, Twill on Instagram. That's Scott Dayton's shop in the Edina Galleria, a place where I've bought a lot of my clothes. And Scott's a big hockey fan. He's a big football fan. Sponsors this show and the Viking Update show on the program on the network, probably the two most popular shows on the network. So if you want to support the podcast network, buy your clothes at Twill in the Edina Galleria.
Hi, I'm Stacy Souhan. I love Twill, Scott Dayton's shop in the Edina Galleria. Twill takes the stress out of shopping by offering updated traditional fashion. I know that if Jim goes in there shopping alone, I will like what he buys, whether it's pajamas, flannel shirts, or suits. I plan to recommend Twill to my daughter when she has to buy wedding party gifts and attire. Twill in the Edina Galleria will bring your fashion game to a championship level.
So I'm watching the Blackhawks Blues last night, and of course, Mike Yeo gets beat in a crazy way by the Chicago Blackhawks with like 8 seconds left. Tarasenko breaks his stick over his knee and skates off. Mike, no matter where he goes, he cannot escape the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's really just unbelievable the way they lost that game, up 3-1 in a game they really had to win. And you get absolutely horrific goaltending from Jake Allen, the guy that stole a series from Minnesota last year. It's nuts. And, he's in trouble. I mean, if they don't make the playoffs, I could definitely see him in a lot of hurt. It probably helps him today that, I have been kind of speculating that if all of a sudden Joe Quenneville was fired in Chicago, that St. Louis would make sense just because of his history there as a coach previously. But John McDonough, the president of the Chicago Blackhawks, came out today and announced that both Stan Bowman, their GM, and Joe Quenneville will be back. So that probably is good news to a lot of coaches, frankly, in the NHL right now. That everybody's kind of predicting, since no coach was fired all season long, that Monday could be Black Monday. Right after this weekend, and a handful, half a dozen coaches could lose their job, and just a terrible loss by the Blackhawks, by the Blues, and again, they play in Chicago tomorrow, and then end the season Saturday in Colorado in a maybe a winner take all matchup. And if you remember, in 2013, the Wild came home. All they had to do was beat Edmonton. They'd won 19 of the last 20 home games against Edmonton. Nicholas Backstrom was 17-0 all time against Edmonton. And what happens? Backstrom doesn't even see the end of the first period. They're down 3-0, lose 6-1, and had to win a second of a back-to-back in Colorado. And that could, frankly, happen again with Mike Yeo.
Yeah. Can the Blackhawks be resurrected at this point, or have they been on top so long they haven't been able to replenish their talent, and now they're missing Hossa and Taves don't look the same. Their defensemen don't look the same.
Well, Keith scored only his second goal of the season on that breaking goal against St. Louis, and it depends on what the future of Corey Crawford is. Obviously, Seabrook's been absolutely horrific this year. Yep. Taves has had the greatest year. Kane hasn't had the greatest year. Saad was god-awful this season. Look, I don't want to say this is the death of the Blackhawks, but it's going to take a lot of work from Stan Bowman to kind of resurrect this. And I'm not going to pretend to you that I'm completely familiar with what's going on in their minor league system and their prospect pool and things like that. But it is going to take a lot of work to get them. They looked very slow to me this year. Obviously, it didn't hurt from December on not having their number one goalie. And it'll be interesting to see how Stan Bowman proceeds this offseason. There's a lot of teams with a lot of cap space, teams like the Vancouver Canucks now that the Sedins are retiring, Vegas. There's some teams that are going to potentially make some moves this offseason, and I got to think that Chicago is going to be very, very active.
So Suter goes down right as Zach Parise seems to be hitting his stride. Is this just Zach just getting, both healthier and reacclimated to playing every day?
Yeah, and he looks energized. The whole theory when you're coming back halfway through the year is that the old once the playoffs start, you're going to be fresh and everybody else is going to be tired, and it's almost coming into fruition the way that you would plan it out. And I sat down with Zach a couple days ago for an hour at the team hotel after practice once we got to Anaheim, and I'm going to be doing a big story on The Athletic on Zach for Friday. And he is just this is really gratifying for him that he is playing so well and mostly healthy. I mean, that's what it comes down to, is that he is healthy right now. Last year, if you remember, he was sick 3 times. Then he got the mumps. Then he sprained his MCL. Then he got hit in the head. He went through a laundry list of maladies during what he said was a, quote, brutal season, Jim. And then 2 years ago, obviously, he missed the playoffs and was debilitated all second half by the back injury. Now, all of a sudden, he's not feeling it. And, and part of my story is kind of him taking me back through training camp and all the agony that he was going through, where he was, when he'd have to go for rides, he'd have to lay in essentially the trunk of his car while his wife drove, and he'd had to eat lying down and basically couldn't sit, and just all the stuff that he just was in absolute pain. And so now all of a sudden he has 12 goals in his last 17 games, other than Connor McDavid, most goals in the NHL during that stretch. He's playing, really, really well. Last night in Anaheim, I didn't think he had the greatest game. So we'll see how he plays tonight in LA. And then I've got to think that he'll play in San Jose as well. And maybe like a Mikko Koivu gets off that game.
My concern was with the back problem. And Michael, you've been with me on the road when I've had back problems and been unable to sit down myself. My concern was that Zach was always so willing to go to the front of the net, and that the back injury might make him a little reticent to do that. Is he basically the same player he used to be in that regard?
Yeah, he never even showed that, even at the very beginning. He never showed where mentally this was going to be a tough hurdle for him to be scared of going in corners and things like that. He told me, I asked him, I said, was there a first cross-check or a first hit that he realized that all of a sudden, hey, I could take it? And he said, actually, it was the game in Iowa during the minor league where he toe-picked in the corner and kind of went down. All of a sudden, he's like, oh, okay, it's stiff, but it doesn't hurt. And so, he still after games, before games, he has to do a lot of things to maintain this. And it's going to be for the rest of his career. And he knows the statistics. He knows that there is always that chance for recurrence, but he's just really, really hopeful that he is beyond this and that the surgery that he had fixed it, because right now he feels no ill effects.
You mentioned Connor McDavid. I have a question about him and the NHL. I do want to thank Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com. It's our friend John Hedges' shop in third floor of the Mall of America up by Nordstrom's, also downtown Minneapolis in the Skyway, across from Dunn Brothers, just south of the Wells Fargo Center, right by Taco John's.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at our 2 locations, Mall of America and the Skyway in downtown Minneapolis. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at fixologymn on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
So, speaking of Connor McDavid, who's the MVP? Or, excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm such an old baseball guy. I always say MVP. I shouldn't say MVP when it comes to the NHL, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Right now, it's funny. I just got my ballot about an hour ago from the league, and I'll go through it. Usually I'll probably do it on my flight home from San Jose on Sunday after I see the way that everything ends this year. But I'd still go with McKinnon or Taylor Hall as 1-2, depending on how Colorado finishes, although McKinnon hasn't been great in the last week and a half. But, for where both these teams were last year and the way this types of seasons that both Taylor Hall has had with New Jersey and McKinnon has had with Colorado, I just think that they're doing the most with less in the NHL right now. McDavid's got to be in the conversation, but I do believe that when you're as bad as the Edmonton Oilers are, that it's just hard to pick that guy as the MVP. So to me, I'll probably go that route. I think it's tough. I feel bad that I kind of feel this way because, a lot of people are, well, what about Kucherov? What about Malkin? But the definition of the award is most valuable to his team. And those guys have a supporting cast that if they weren't around, I think those teams would still be in the conversation to make the playoffs and maybe be at the top of their conference the way that both of them are. And so is that fair to them? Because that will never change. I mean, they're always going to have the supporting cast that they have next to them. It probably isn't fair. But to me, in this year, I've got to look at Hall and McKinnon as probably my 1-2.
Yeah, I like the way you think because it's not it's not the player. It's not a Player of the Year award. It's the most valuable player either award.
No, I mean if they want to change,
contextual.
Yeah, and if they want to change the definition, then we could do it. If you want to say the best player in the league, we could do that, and then we know it's Connor McDavid. But that's why I don't think that he might not necessarily be in my top 5, but that is why I think Eric Staal should be at least in some ballots in the top 5. Mm-hmm. Because again, where would the Wild be if Eric Staal and his 40-goal season wasn't around this year? The question would be very, 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 very low in the Western Conference.
No, absolutely. Hey, let's do some Twitter questions. We got a lot of good ones today from our old friend Aaron Berger. Basically, questions whether the Wild has ever really developed a goalie. Kind of mentioning that Backstrom came in already as a developed player.
Yeah, no, the Wild have never developed a goalie.
And is there a reason for that?
They're obviously just haven't hit any home runs with them. I mean, they had Hudobin, but I don't think he was that. Mike Lick, I don't think that we're going to see that. Even Kakkonen, I don't hear the greatest stuff about him. And so, it is a good question. I think that you look around a lot of teams and they draft them in the mid rounds and sometimes 1-2 a season, and the Wild go through a lot of drafts, especially when you don't have a lot of quantity in the Chuck Fletcher era where he's trading a lot of picks. You're not going to waste it on a goalie.
Right, absolutely. And the follow-up question that was also whether Bob Mason deserves any blame for that. Does the goalie coach
Mason's the NHL goalie coach.
Right.
He's not the development coach for the league.
I wanted to make that point.
The Wild have Frederick Chabot down in the minors, and maybe they do need to do a better job, of that. But again, they got Chabot down there, but Bob Mason is pretty much up in the NHL only.
Right. Russo Slacks asked the question. Should I ask the question, or should I just let you groan right now? Okay, there we go. From Don Berthume, I'm probably messing up your name. Sorry about that. With Belpedio signed, and with does that mean that Soucy has to go back down because the emergency is over?
No, that was my point on why they had a delay for 5 days signing Belpedio in the first place, because they could not have 6 defensemen on the team to essentially have Soucy up here. So they had to, when Suter got hurt, they were going to sign Belpedio that day after. Then all of a sudden they just couldn't, because if they had signed him, then they would have 60. Or now it is not that case.
Got it. From John B. Doesn't have a question, but he recommends you go on the Benzinger Wine Tour when you're in the Bay Area. Said it's very nice.
Very nice. I can't like this trip. This trip's all about working ahead on playoffs.
From John Cummings, if the Wild D gets exposed in the playoffs, could the GM be fired? And do the moves before the deadline add into that?
Well, I mean, again, if anything, if the Wild's D right now, the fact that they're in a situation without Spurgeon and Ryan Suter, and the fact that they have shown that they had actually a lot of depth down in the minors with Soucy and with Sealer, if anything, that helps Chuck Fletcher's cause. I mean, obviously in the blue, look, if you don't have a healthy Spurgeon and a Ryan Suter in the playoffs, I don't care what Sealer and Soucy look like in the postseason. If they're exposed, well, that's just reality. That's just life. I mean, to expect them to all of a sudden be able to replace those two guys and be as good, it's just not reality. So to me, that's not why, if Chuck Fletcher is fired, why he would be fired. And I will say the way that we all, I think in their first glimpse without Ryan Suter, reported how well they played against Edmonton. But then last night against Anaheim, what was the problem? Their blue line wasn't very good. Prosser had a tough game, and Soucy was on for 2 goals and partly responsible for one of them, and Murphy was absolutely god awful. So look, I mean, this is the concern going into the postseason. They're not playing the Edmonton Oilers in the postseason. They're going to be playing the Jets or the Predators, and so if there's a concern to have in the postseason, it's going to be that back end.
A lot of good Twitter questions. Let's get to the rest of them after I thank our friend Tony Hoaglund, Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. He handles accounts all over the Metro and all over the state, of course. He handles all my accounts. He handles all of Michael's as well.
Right now, 1 in 3 drivers is cruising around in a state of skepticism about just how much value their car insurance company is delivering. If you are one of them, State Farm agent Tony Hoaglund in Champlin can help you get to a better state, because he'll talk with you, listen to you, and help you put together a policy that has you written all over it, from cost to coverage, all backed by 24/7 customer support. Feeling less skeptical? Then call State Farm agent Tony Hoaglund in Champlin and officially get to a better state with State Farm. And you can reach Tony at 763-421-4900.
All right, back to Twitter questions, Michael, from Irrelevant. Could and should Chuck Fletcher go after Tavares?
I mean, I don't see how they could.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, should. But again, I mean, why is John Tavares coming here? I mean, and what would have to happen to be able to make that work? I just can't even picture it in my mind. I don't see what possibly would be the reason with the amount of good teams out there that are going to be opening the bank for him. To me, he's either staying in New York or he's already made up his mind where he's going. And just imagine what would need to happen to get that space. I mean, you'd have to make a boatload of trades at the draft to create the space to sign him 3-4 days later. It's just impossible. I mean, so I just don't see how it's even humanly possible to get that done. You can only go over 10% at the on July 1st over the cap. So again, I don't see it's happening.
Yep. From Reed Alberts, more speculation. If the Wild were to trade a Coyle or a Brodin this offseason, what type of return could they get?
Well, again, at the draft, and Reed, sorry for blocking your dad. I'm tired of him.
Always intrigued.
Yes. I like Reed. I like Reed's mom. Don't like his dad. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I could see. I think it'd be really. I think what this is showing also the Wild on trading Brodin is that it's probably not happening. Even somebody with the organization's front office said this is why you don't trade Brodin the other day.
Yep.
And especially now with Ryan Suter's career absolutely in flux, I can almost guarantee you they're not going to trade Brodin this summer. Watch that come back to haunt me. Coyle, yes. I think the Coyle's the type of guy that could get you a pretty decent return back. Whether you want to go prospects or picks or a position player on another team. There's no doubt that Montreal was, a team that the Wild were talking to. From Montreal's perspective, they wanted to make a move, whether it was a Pacioretty or Galchenyuk, and it just seemed like the Wild at the deadline, because of the amount of pieces that they would have had to give up off their roster. They were not, really the interest wasn't exactly replicated, but in the off season, it makes more sense. And, but again, we do have to see who the GM is, even if Chuck Fletcher has set the table on a couple things, if all of a sudden he's gone, now a new GM comes in and he's going to have to make some decisions. So, and all of a sudden, again, table setting that was done by Chuck Fletcher won't exist anymore. So, until we know the future with Chuck Fletcher, I think everything this summer is basically a complete unknown.
A question from Jay Souhan in Augusta. Any idea what Craig Leopold's mood is right now?
He was in a great mood up until the Ryan Suter injury.
Yeah.
So
the team had played great for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they looked like they were peaking at the perfect time for the first time in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the Wild, remember the year that the Wild clinched the playoff spot under John Trichetti? What did they go out and do? Lose 5 games in a row before the playoffs. Obviously, we all know what they did last year and I'm walking away from the bench right now just because the Zamboni's going by. But you remember last year in the month of March falling apart. So, Again, it's just finally you have this year where it looks like you are peaking at the perfect time, and boom, you lose arguably your most irreplaceable player. It's a real tough blow, and that's why it's like even I left the arena, and I've got a heart of stone. But even I left the arena, and I'm like Jim, like this is like I felt sickened for them. I mean, even Chuck Fletcher. I mean, again, we could all, I know fans. Some of them want him gone. Some of them are indifferent. Some of them want him back. Whatever. But you still got to walk away, and you got to feel bad for this. It just seems like these guys can never, ever, ever catch a break. I mean, who goes into a season and just thinks that Zach Parise his back is gonna absolutely fail on him. Who goes into a season and expects in the third day of the season you're going to lose Nino Niederreiter, Marcus Foligno, and Charlie Coyle in the same game? Who goes in the season and thinks the day before the season starting, Mikael Granlund's going to go down with a groin injury? It's just like from the moment the season started, they were playing catch up, and then they finally get healthy, other than the Luke Cunnin injury, and Suter then breaks his leg and is a bone in his ankle. And even the Cunnin injury, that's when you're like, does this team even catch a break? Like they don't make any moves at the deadline with the intention of creating the cap space to bring Cunnin up, and boom, a game in his second game up, he tears his ACL. And here's a kid that last year, in a league now where every agent wants to burn the first year of his contract, Luke Cunnin said, no, I want to just sign a 3-year deal starting next year on an ATO. I want to play in the minors, get better, and then hopefully I can make the team out of camp. And this kid does everything right, and then boom, tears his ACL. It's just, it's sometimes you can't even make up the bad fortune with this franchise.
Or this market, no question about it. I don't believe in curses, but there's a lot of strange coincidences in this marketplace. Yeah. From Kyle Muchez, what are some of the traditions or superstitions the guys do or have during the playoffs? Any jump out at you?
Well, I mean, playoffs, I think most guys don't change their routines before a game. And, a lot of guys play the soccer hacky sack warm-up game before games. They have the same workout routines. They eat the same foods, come to the arena at the same time. Some guys like Ryan Suter would throw the football. I will say, Dubnyk's the most laid-back goalie I've ever seen. I mean, even, I thought it was crazy, but I'm like walking, it's like 6 o'clock, and warm-ups is at 6:28 in Nashville. And I'm walking by, going up to the press box, and I see him still playing soccer hacky sack. And I'm like, my God. Just imagine that focus where 28 minutes before warm-ups, you're just sitting there playing soccer rather than doing what you see a lot of these goalies doing, and eye exercises and throwing tennis balls off walls and all this stuff. It's pretty crazy.
That's one of the things I like about Dubnyk, though. And it's something I always liked about Major League Baseball pitchers who didn't do the whole, I can't talk to anybody 2 days before the start, and I have to walk around like I have blinders on. Isn't it better to be a little bit relaxed and then turn it on when it's time to turn it on? From Bobby Krenicki, who would you rather have the Wild play, the Jets or the Predators, weather aside?
I think that they're both offer their challenges, and then both have areas where I think the Wild can expose them. I look at, to me, I think they actually have a better chance against Nashville because Nashville has started to crack down the stretch. The Wild usually play them well. The Wild usually play them really well at home and usually get to Pekka Rinne at home. Where Winnipeg right now, I think that Connor Hellebuck is somebody that you can expose because I think he's going to be very nervous in his first postseason. I think their blue line's much. Let's put it this way: if the Wild blue line was completely healthy compared to Winnipeg's blue line, I'd take the Wild's blue line every day of the week. But they're absolutely on fire right now. I think they've won 10 of their last 11, or at least 9 of their last 10, and then they got the firepower up front, as deep as you can. Alex Ovechkin Jr. and Patrick Laine. Scheifele, if he's healthy, I think he's been playing with a secret injury in the shoulder area, but Scheifele, when healthy, is as good a center as there is in the NHL. Blake Wheeler absolutely scorches the Wild and is awesome. Bufflin usually scorches the Wild. Nikolai Ehlers usually scorches the Wild. So, again, I just think that's a tougher series than Nashville, and so naturally, of course, the Wild will play Winnipeg.
Of course. Again, look for our new website that'll be out later this week. You'll see our tweets and our social media posts about it. The Russo-Souhan show will be on there along with a slew of other shows, including a couple of new ones that will be debuting here soon. Thanks again to our sponsors. We're going to ask 2 more Twitter questions, but I do want to thank our sponsors, Twill in the Edina Galleria, TWILLMN.com, Twill on Instagram, Fixology Repair, Fixologyrepair.com, and Tony Hoaglund, Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin, also my State Farm agent and Michael's State Farm agent. 2 more Twitter questions. Thanks for taking the time today, Michael. Carson, what Red Rock shows are you attending this year? And if you have not been to a Pangea Coffee in Golden, Colorado, you got to try it out.
I will definitely try that out. And I'm just going to Trample by Turtles, which is the day after I get back from Italy, by the way. So I land in Minnesota at 10 p.m. and I have a 7 a.m. flight to Colorado the day of the concert.
Awesome. And last question from Matt Laval, longtime friend of the podcast. Speculation here. Who do you see as the next captain of the Wild?
I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe Kirill Kaprizov. No, I'm just kidding. A lot of people would think Cunnin. A couple years ago, I would have said Coyle. I'd personally pick Spurgeon, but
Spurgeon would be a great pick.
Yeah, no, he would. They obviously love Granlund, so I that would be my guess. I don't think Parise or Suter, but who knows? Maybe they'll sign Stahl to a 6-year deal, and it'll be Stahl.
A tradition unlike any other. I will ask you now for a final thought, whether you have one or not.
What's my final thought? Oh, a lot of people have been just asking about Belpedio and why burn a year and all that stuff. And this is just something that agents want. I don't really get it because it doesn't accelerate their free agency timeline. It doesn't accelerate really anything other than get them $90,000 sooner. And it gets them out of their entry level deal sooner. But that sometimes backfires on a lot of people as well. So, this is just a 2-year deal. Essentially, if the Wild wanted to sign Louis Belpedio, they had no choice, or he would have gone to free agency August 15th. This is just something that his agent wanted. He is not ready for the show. I mean, he did not play well in Iowa, frankly, they're just going to give him a courtesy game in game 82 to rest, maybe take a Ryan Murphy out or rest a Dumba or Bodine just to protect him. But if I would be shocked if we see Louis Belpedio in the playoffs. It would take a bunch of injuries, I would think, that for us to see Belpedio in the minors. In the playoffs.
You used to groan at me as if I were Russo Slacks when I asked for a final thought. Now all of a sudden you're coming up with great final thoughts every week.
Yeah, we're 160 shows or something in, and I finally knew it was coming.
You figured it out.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, have you talked to Sergio Garcia today?
I'm on my way to go. I think I'm just going to pop by his rental house. I'm sure. I think he's bringing visitors over. He's throwing a party. Have a little sangria and talk about the 13 he shot today.
Yeah. Man, what a disappointment going there.
Good Lord.
Can you imagine people that had their Masters pools that threw him in as like one of the 4? I could tell you a couple Wild guys had him on there.
Man, I would not have picked him this year. I felt like this was going to be more of a ceremonial visit than a real competitive round for him. But I wouldn't have picked him to have a 13 on his score.
Yeah. No, crazy.
Good stuff, Michael. Safe travels, man. Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. To the beach and it was covered in ice, and I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
From the kids to Aunt Sue, keep your whole family connected on all their devices with crowd-pleasing gig-speed internet from Xfinity. Now that's simple, easy, awesome. Learn more about gig-speed internet or other popular plans, now with even more speed. Enjoy faster downloads and a better streaming experience today. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit an Xfinity store for a great offer. Restrictions apply. Actual speeds vary and not guaranteed.